Hello everyone, true story of adultery. In a quiet residential area on the outskirts of a small city in the United States, Bucasi, a 67-year-old man, lives in the house he once shared with his beloved wife. Bucasi used to be a cheerful person, the center of family parties and an inspiration to his friends. But everything changed completely since his wife passed away 10 months ago. Since then, this house has become a quiet and gloomy space. Every corner of the room is filled with sweet but also painful memories. Bucasi spends most of his time at home, avoiding the outside world. The photo of his wife on a small table near the window is a constant reminder of the happy days gone by. He keeps everything almost intact: the armchair she used to sit in, the books she never finished reading, and the sweater she once knitted. Bucasi felt that keeping these mementos was the only way to keep his wife with him, even if only in his mind. Bucasi's children repeatedly urged him to move in with them, or at least sell the house and start over somewhere new. But Bucasi refused. Bucasi did not want to leave the place filled with memories of the couple, where every detail told the story of their love. Bucasi also feared that, if he left, he would truly lose what was left of her. The evenings were the hardest for Bucasi. The silence of the house seemed to weigh heavily on his soul. Bucasi often sat alone in a chair by the window, looking out at the deserted street outside, where the dim yellow lights only accentuated the feeling of loneliness. Bucasi, who had been a spiritual support for his family and friends, now felt like a lost shadow, unable to find meaning or joy in life. As time passed, Bucasi's grief did not lessen, but seemed to deepen in his heart. Each new day did not bring hope, but only prolonged the feeling of loss. Bucasi did not know if he could overcome this feeling of emptiness, but he also not sure he wanted to do that. For him, letting go of the pain was like betraying the love he had for his deceased wife. Closing with the image of Bucasi sitting quietly by the window, his dreamy eyes looking into the distant space, where the past and present intersected, creating a deep sadness that he could not escape. One autumn afternoon, the sky in America seemed to be wearing a gentle pale yellow coat. Bucasi, after many days of just hanging around the house, decided to step outside. Bucasi had no specific purpose, just wanted to feel the air and find some peace in the outside world. With slow steps, Bucasi walked along the familiar brick path leading to the small park near his house. This used to be the place where he and his wife often strolled on beautiful afternoons. Sitting on an old wooden bench in the park, Bucasi sighed. Bucasi quietly watched the leaves fall. The gentle breeze carried the laughter of children playing nearby. Suddenly, a soft voice rang out. "Are you okay?" Bucasi raised his head and saw a young girl, about 25 years old, with long, flowing black hair and bright eyes. She was wearing a light blue wool coat and was holding a book in her hand. At first, Bucasi was a little surprised by this sudden concern. He shook his head, smiled awkwardly, and replied, "Thank you. I'm fine." But Bucasi's sad eyes seemed to say otherwise. Realizing that, the girl did not leave but gently sat down on the chair next to him. "I'm Eliza," she introduced herself. "I often come to this park to read books. But today, I thought I should talk to you." Bucasi, although surprised by the young girl's frankness, felt a strange warmth in the way she started the conversation. After a few minutes of hesitation, he began to speak, telling about the death of his wife and the persistent loneliness that had haunted him all this time. "When your partner leaves, loneliness is more than just a feeling," Bucasi said, his voice low and sad. "It's something that exists, haunts and engulfs you every day." Eliza listened with deep attention and sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Bucasi. Losing someone you love is never easy, and living through that pain is even harder." Her words were not only sympathetic, but also a small comfort. Bucasi felt, for the first time in months, that someone had truly listened and understood what he was going through. Still, Bucasi held back a part of his feelings, not revealing them all. There was something deeper, some pain or secret, that he couldn't or didn't want to share. Yet he realized that for just a few short minutes, Eliza's presence had lit a small but precious light in the heavy darkness of his life. They began to meet more often at the small park, which became a familiar meeting place for both of them, something Bucasi had not felt since his wife passed away. Bucasi, with his life experience and quiet way of speaking, made Eliza feel at peace amidst the hustle and bustle and pressure of modern life. One cool afternoon, when the last rays of the day were still lingering on the leaves, Bucasi hesitantly began another story. That day, Bucasi felt something in his heart urging him, something that Bucasi had kept hidden for so long. "Eliza," he said, his old eyes looking at her. "You have heard me talk a lot about my wife, about our happy years together. But there is something I have never told anyone, and I think I need to share." Eliza nodded, her eyes attentive as if to reassure him. Bucasi took a deep breath and continued. "I didn't think I'd ever feel this close to another woman since she left. But you changed that. Since meeting you, I've felt a little alive again. I know this sounds strange, especially with the big age gap between us, but you're the first woman who's made me feel attracted to her after everything that's happened." Eliza was stunned by the statement. She hadn't expected their casual conversation to lead to such a profound emotional confession. For a moment, she didn't know how to react. Bucasi, noticing her silence, quickly explained. "I don't expect anything in return, Eliza. I just want you to know. I cherish your presence in my life, and no matter what you think, I will always be grateful that you existed." Eliza lowered her head, her hands clasped together in a moment of confusion. But then she looked up, her eyes soft on Bucasi. "I really don't know what to say, Mr. Bucasi," she said softly. "I really like you and appreciate what you've shared. I don't reject your feelings, but I need time to understand myself and this relationship." Eliza's words were not a rejection, nor were they an immediate acceptance. They were an unspoken promise that she would try to understand her feelings. For Bucasi, that was enough. He didn't want to rush or impose anything on Eliza. Bucasi just needed to know that she would still be there, listening and sharing with Bucasi. That afternoon, the two continued to talk, but the atmosphere between them had changed. It was no longer the initial curiosity or simple stories, but a deeper connection, a silent commitment that they would both explore the meaning of this relationship together. As time passed, Bucasi and Eliza continued to meet regularly. At first, their relationship remained confined to intimate conversations, where Bucasi shared about his life, his late wife, and memories from the past. Eliza, with patience and compassion, not only listened but also asked questions that made Bucasi realize that he had never truly faced his grief. Late one afternoon, as the sunset covered the park, Eliza spoke up, breaking the silence that had fallen. "Mr. Bucasi, I know you still love your wife very much, but I also sense that you are searching for something more than just memories. I am not sure what that is, but I want to help you find it." Bucasi smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "You're right, Eliza. I've loved my wife all my life, and even after she left, that love is still intact. But I can't deny that your presence makes me feel like I'm not completely alone anymore. You've given me back what I thought I had lost forever." Eliza nodded, but said nothing more. She understood that Bucasi's feelings were real, but also complicated. The age gap, the difference in life experiences, and the pain of loss were still weighing on him. However, she didn't feel pressured or uncomfortable, but on the contrary, a curiosity began to form within her. What made Bucasi, a man who was once strong and cheerful, now reveal his weakness? In the following days, Eliza began to take the initiative in their relationship. She not only listened to Bucasi, but also shared about herself, about her unfulfilled dreams, the difficulties she encountered at work, and the lost feelings that she sometimes couldn't explain. Bucasi listened with patience and understanding, and gradually, Eliza realized that this relationship was not only about healing for Bucasi, but also helping her find a comfort she never knew she needed. They began to explore the world together. One day, Eliza took Bucasi to a small coffee shop she loved, where Bucasi tasted a pumpkin latte for the first time. Another time, Bucasi invited Eliza to his home, showed her old photos of his wife, and told her about the trips they had taken together. Through those moments, Bucasi not only saw Eliza, but also recognized a part of his wife in the young girl's enthusiasm and sincerity. One day, as they sat on a familiar bench in the park, Eliza said with a bit of hesitation, "Mr. Bucasi, I don't know where this relationship will go. But I do know one thing: you have made me feel that I am not just an observer of your life, but a part of it." Eliza's words made Bucasi smile, a smile he hadn't had in a long time. "Eliza, you've done more than listen to me. You've reminded me that life is beautiful, even if it's not perfect. I don't need anything more than that." As time passed, the relationship between Bucasi and Eliza gradually became more complicated, but also deeper. The conversations that started as listening and sharing now turned into a clear emotional connection. The two were no longer just friends who met by chance, but had become each other's spiritual support. One winter morning, when a light snow fell and covered the park, Eliza came to Bucasi's house for the first time in weeks. In the cozy living room, the light from the table lamp cast a light on the mementos that Bucasi had carefully preserved, from the wedding photos to the wedding ring that was still placed solemnly on the table. Eliza walked slowly through the room, feeling the warm and thoughtful atmosphere. "Mr. Bucasi," she said, breaking the silence, "I think your pain is not just about the loss of your wife." Bucasi, silent at first, then sat down in his usual chair. He sighed, his old eyes staring intently at the wedding ring on the table. Eliza sat down across from him, her eyes filled with understanding. "But don't you think that, Bucasi, holding on to everything just to cling to the past has made you miss out on other beautiful things in the present? I'm not telling you to forget your wife, but I think you should let her love live in your heart, instead of just living through these mementos." Eliza's words seemed to touch a hidden corner of Bucasi's soul. But what he didn't expect was that, in Eliza's sincerity and gentleness, he found a new light. Not a replacement for his love for his wife, but a way for him to see life as something more than just sadness. From that day on, Bucasi began to change little by little. Together they rearranged the house, putting away some of the things he had clung to, but still keeping the things that were truly important. In the process, Eliza not only helped Bucasi face the past, but also made him realize that keeping memories did not mean giving up everything. One evening, as the two sat by the fireplace, Bucasi said to Eliza, his voice soft but full of emotion, "Eliza, you not only helped me remember my wife, but also helped me remember that I can still love and feel." "Thank you." Eliza smiled and replied, "Mr. Bucasi, I don't think I can help you. I think you found it yourself. I was just a companion." Their relationship was not romantic, but contained a strangely deep emotional connection. They not only soothed each other's pain, but also helped each other find new meaning in life. Bucasi no longer felt trapped by the pain of loss, and Eliza learned to look at life from a different perspective, deeper and more compassionate. One day in early spring, as buds began to emerge from the bare branches of the trees, Bucasi and Eliza went to a small garden in the park. They decided to plant a hydrangea bush, Bucasi's wife's favorite flower. For Bucasi, this was more than just planting flowers. It was his way of finding a reconciliation between the past and the present. Eliza stood by his side, assisting him every step of the way, from choosing the location to caring for the plant. "Do you know, Bucasi," Eliza said, gently covering the base of the plant with soil, "she would be very happy to see you doing this. You're not planting flowers to forget her, but to remember her in a more positive way." Bucasi smiled, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Eliza, I'm not sure I would have done this without you. You helped me realize that love doesn't have to be tied to pain." As time passed, the hydrangea bushes began to grow, as did the relationship between Bucasi and Eliza. They not only shared peaceful moments, but also learned to face their own pain and challenges. For Bucasi, Eliza was not just a young friend, but someone who helped him find a part of himself that he thought was lost forever. And for Eliza, Bucasi was a symbol of resilience and kindness that she had never seen in anyone else. One day, Eliza took Bucasi to a nursing home where she regularly volunteered. "I want you to meet my friends," she said. Bucasi, initially hesitant, quickly felt comfortable in the warm space of the home. He began telling stories, playing chess, and laughing with the other seniors. There, he not only found joy, but also found himself able to bring joy to others, something he had not done in a long time. Eliza looked at Bucasi, her heart filled with joy as she watched him change. "You know," she said one afternoon as they sat by a blooming hydrangea bush, "you helped me understand that life can bring great pain, but it can also bring opportunities for healing. I think sometimes, meeting the right person at the right time can change everything." Bucasi nodded, his eyes welling up with tears. "Eliza, I don't know what our future holds, but I know one thing for sure: you were the best thing that happened to me after losing my wife. Thank you for giving me a chance to live again." Two people, from two generations, two different backgrounds, but they found harmony in their loneliness. Their relationship was not clearly defined, but it was meaningful and powerful. It was not a replacement, but a complement, where both found things they didn't know they needed. As time passed, spring gave way to the glorious days of summer. Bucasi and Eliza's relationship grew closer, but they both realized that, no matter how close they were, each had their own path to walk. Eliza, in her conversations with Bucasi, would occasionally mention her unfinished dreams, a job she wanted, places she wanted to go. Bucasi, with his experience, always encouraged her to pursue those things. One afternoon, as they sat together by the hydrangea bush, now in full bloom, Bucasi suddenly said, "Eliza, I know that your presence has changed my life, but I also understand that you need to live your life to the fullest. I don't want to hold you back, I don't want to make you hesitate in anything." Eliza turned to look at him, a little surprised by his words. "Mr. Bucasi, I never thought that you were holding me back. On the contrary, he helped me see life from a completely different perspective. I learned to slow down, reflect, and appreciate the little things around me. I'm not here out of a sense of duty, but because I really want to be here." But Bucasi still looked at her with a serious gaze. "I understand that, Eliza, and I appreciate it. But you have a long future ahead of you, with so much to explore. I don't want to be the reason you stop." His voice was gentle but firm, like a father advising his daughter, both loving and wanting the best for her. Bucasi's words made Eliza think a lot. That night she sat by the window of her apartment, looking out at the night sky. She realized that Bucasi was right. As much as she wanted to be with him, she also needed to find her own meaning, not only through supporting others, but also in building her own life. The next day, Eliza met Bucasi again, but this time, she took the initiative. "Mr. Bucasi, I think it's time. I need to try new things. I won't be away from you forever, but I want to travel for a while, challenge myself in other roles. I want to know that I can stand on my own before I come back here." Bucasi smiled, his heart both sad and proud. "Eliza, that's what I want you to do. And I know you'll do well. Go and live your life to the fullest, like my wife did. But remember, if you need a place to come back to, I'm always here." In the following weeks, they spent time preparing for Eliza's trip. In their last days together, they didn't say much, just sitting together by the hydrangea bushes, looking up at the vast blue sky. It was a meaningful silence, as if no words were needed to understand each other. On the day Eliza left, Bucasi stood in front of the house, looking at the young girl with a backpack on her shoulder, his smile bright but his eyes still filled with nostalgia. She hugged him tightly, as if wanting to feel his warmth before leaving. "Mr. Bucasi, I will be back," she said softly. "And Eliza hopes that when I return, Bucasi will tell me about the new things Bucasi has done without me." Bucasi smiled, a gentle smile but full of hope. "Go and find your world, Eliza. I will be here, and I promise, when Eliza comes back, we will have a lot to tell each other." Congratulations on finishing the video. If you find it interesting, please give me a like button, so you don't miss the next video.